Welcome to the revolution in the airwaves. It's The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just talk about the medical industry, we transform it. This is The Cure with Scotty and Sully, where we don't just cover excellence, we create it.
Hey, welcome to The Cure with Scotty and Sully. We got another fun episode, Scotty. I get to see your... This is the second time this day I've got to see your pretty face. You've got the new ring lights, so you're
it's lovely. Yeah, it's got great.
You're not as flush as you were.
You could see it. Can you see it in my glasses?
I could. I could. So this is a highly produced program, and
it's so sophisticated.
It's so sophisticated. But listen, hey, if you're in sales, you're in leadership, you're in marketing, you work for a medical distributor, medical device company, doesn't matter. Come here because we get what we think are some of the world's greatest authors, speakers, subject matter experts, key opinion leaders, and we got one today, my man Scotty. So Jennifer, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Jennifer Fitzpatrick, she's a certified speaking professional. We're both part of that National Speakers Association, Jennifer and I. She's a speaker, a consultant, and author, and she's founder of Generations Health Education. She's a former gerontology instructor at Johns Hopkins University, certificate on aging program, which is only slightly better, Scotty, than Liberty University, which I understand just trouble this week.
Did they get into some trouble this week? I didn't see it. I was up there.
Well, let's just say that your alma mater is down $14 million by a federal fine, but we'll get to that later. But Jennifer,
it wasn't the pool boy that sued him.
No, well, it could have been. It could have been. But Jennifer's been featured on ABC, CBS, SiriusXM, Forbes. She's really, really smart. But the two programs and books that stand out: Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare. I love the topic, and Cruising Through Caregiving, Reducing the Stress of Caring for Your Loved One. So this may apply to you if you're not even in medical sales, but listen, you maybe got elderly parents. Hey, maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But I really want to focus today on this concept of customer service in healthcare, because Scotty, we don't talk about it a lot. We talk about that a lot, from how do medical companies and medical salespeople provide really good customer experiences to the healthcare systems, but we don't often think of the healthcare systems have to treat their patients like customers. Is that what you're kind of getting at here, Jennifer?
Yeah. And a lot of people are really resistant to that concept. They think, well, I went into medical school, or I went to nursing school. I didn't go to charm school. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to build rapport with you. I'm here to cure your disease, or I'm here to fix your broken bone. But I think most industries really spend a lot of time on the customer service because they get it. And I don't think it's any more important anywhere than in the healthcare system, because people are at their most vulnerable.
Yeah, for sure. And you've seen, Sully, I'm sure you're aware, but hospitals and health systems are getting graded now, and it changes their reimbursement significantly. So it is a very topical thing in that environment. I know Pritchard, my business partner, talks about it all the time, of the dynamic change in health systems and their reimbursement. So I love that we're talking about this.
Yeah, the HCAP scores, right? You hear it. When I go speak every week to these companies, we've talked forever how important it is to not pitch your features and your benefits of your product. And I love that sign behind you, Scotty, right? Sell the problem. I mean, what a concept, but most don't do it. And but this is understanding the importance of them delivering a great patient experience, like you said, directly impacts cash, and cash flow in a hospital is very important. It could mean millions of dollars to a healthcare system if my Uncle Joe walks out of there and people treated him like crap. Right, Jennifer?
Right. And on the other side, when you're treated really, really well, everybody talks about that too, because, and especially right now, because staffing is such a problem, people are just so grateful when they have a positive, pleasant experience with the healthcare system. So as obviously more we know in sales, more people tell about the negative experiences, but people do sing your praises when you do a good job.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's funny you mentioned the staffing issue. That is one of the top three. Financial is the other one, and making sure they can get supply. Those are the top three things that supply chain executives are worried about today, or staffing, financial, and then getting supply. So when people have a bad experience, they're definitely going to talk about it. When they have a great experience, they're going to talk about it. It's why the food has gotten better within the health systems. I mean, right? Yeah, bad food, you're going to probably get bad reviews.
That's true. All right. So Jennifer, take us back, share with the listener a little bit about your journey in healthcare, and you became a psychotherapist, right? So you're digging into the psychology of what people need to do, either as the caregiver who's providing great customer service, or even understanding what the patient needs to receive to feel whole, right? So tell us about your journey.
Sure. So I got a job in a nursing home when I was 16. And for anybody who's a millennial or a Gen Z, you might say, well, why? Well, that was the job that was available. I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm wondering maybe if Sully and Scott are Gen Xers too.
Yes,
but
sir.
You may remember that it wasn't easy to get a job in high school when we were kids. I mean, it was really a stiff competition. It's not like it is today at all. There's so many great part-time jobs for young people, but I was desperate for cash. I really wanted to have my own money, and I sort of fell into this job in a nursing home. Anyway, fast forward, I have found that I really liked working in healthcare, and ultimately I've done sales and marketing in healthcare, but I also got an MSW and I became a psychotherapist as well. So I've had sort of I've done leadership roles. I've done psychotherapy. I've taught college. I've had a really fun, really cool, diverse career but primarily exclusively in healthcare and mental health. So probably, about 15 years ago, I started my company, and the goal was just to help clinicians and leaders do better. And whether that's sharpening their clinical skills, but also this patient experience aspect. And if you're in another venue where you don't call it patients, I know most of your listeners probably you do call them patients, but in mental health, they call them clients. And in senior living, they call them residents. Whatever you call them, they are your customers. And I think that a lot of people, my experience over the years has been that so many of us are falling short of just being human to people who are in vulnerable situations. Right. When they are sick or their mental health isn't good, or maybe they're taking care of an aging parent. So that's a little bit about how I got to be with you today.
What's your analysis on Sully just switching his camera view?
You know what's funny? I can't see it.
Oh, you can't?
Oh, I can now. Okay. Yeah. I got it.
What do you think?
I know. I like it. I like the other view.
Good. Yeah, I like it.
That's what you do, right? So you got
your sign, though, Scott. So
hey, Jennifer, talk to me a little bit about we mentioned that staffing is a problem, but what are some other gaps that you see in healthcare organizations from a service standpoint?
Sure. So one big one I think is the diversity generationally wise. So I think we all talk about DEI right now, and being mindful about culture and religion and race and all those differences we have as human beings, being sensitive. But I think a lot of healthcare organizations, we're not necessarily generationally sensitive as much as we could be. Now, I know if you're a small organization, you have a tiny budget, this probably is going to be very hard for you to do. But most of your audience, they have decent budgets and they can do things to make their services and their products and everything that they provide more generationally diverse. For example, young people do not want to make appointments by picking up the telephone. So if you've got a college student, they want an app. They want to be at minimum go online and make their appointment for their checkup or whatever kind of service they need. On the other hand, you might have gone completely to tech, and that's how you do all your paperwork. And if you get an older adult, maybe somebody who's 80 years old, and sure, maybe they have a phone, a cell phone, but it's probably not a smartphone, statistically speaking. They might even have an iPad or a computer but they would, in a lot of cases, not everybody, but a lot of people are going to prefer, hey, can you mail me the forms? Or can I fill out the forms when I get there? And so I think that that's an area where we all could do a little bit better. And again, I'm not trying to pick on the small shops. If you're a small organization, you may not be able to adjust for everybody, but the large ones can. The large ones, they have the ability to do that. And they're going to have more compliance. They're going to just think about when we all go and you have a checkup or you have an eye doctor appointment, you get most of them, they'll send you a text to remind you. No one picks up their phone if they're under, I'm 50. I don't pick up my phone unless I know exactly who it is and if I feel like talking to them. Right. So the younger generation certainly are not picking up the phone for somebody to confirm their appointment.
Right. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. When you initially said that comment, that's not the direction I was going. I thought you were talking about from a hiring standpoint.
We can talk about that too.
Different generations of people in there.
A lot of generationally insensitive things happening with hiring, I think.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, I want to go back to the concept of customer service. So I have a friend. His name's Bob Page. He's the CEO of University of Kansas Health System, and I had him on my radio show years ago. And of course, we've chatted a ton since. A wonderful man. In fact, my father-in-law, he was elderly. He was 92 years old, and he was in palliative care. And Bob actually came and sat with him as the CEO of the health system, right? Now, I say this because, who would do that? He's a busy man. And I go back to one of the early conversations I had with him on my program. And he said, I came into the University of Kansas in the, early 80s. He'd been there a long time. It might have been mid 80s, something like that. And he said, everybody treated it, their job, like they worked at the U.S. Postal Office or the Department of Motor Vehicle. He said, so I implemented for every employee had to go through customer service training. We were going to turn this into a great experience. And this was before he had any financial incentive to do so. He wanted to do it because it was the right thing to do. And he said, I imagined my own father who died of colon cancer and the experience he went through, and it wasn't amazing. And he said, I'm an accountant. I never planned on this being my job. He said, but when I got the gift of being able to impact people's experience when they really, really need a good experience, he said, I was going to do it right. Not everyone thinks that way, right, Jennifer? You've been through a ton of health systems and senior living, and some do it right and some do it wrong. Share with us some of the very specific things or habits that the good ones do or are aware of that the lame ones don't.
Well, the ones that come to my mind first is, sadly, I have had two close friends, children have leukemia. And Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and Children's Hospital of Boston are spectacular. They do amazing. They're very patient-centered as far as they have activities for the kids. They communicate constantly with the parents. They work with outside people like my friends that were just at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. They have a Wawa cart. If you're from Philly, you know what that means.
Yeah,
Wawa's
Wawa.
Do you guys know Wawa?
Yeah.
The Wawa is a big deal in Philly, and I grew up in Philly. So, but they have celebrities come and visit. And so while this is the worst moment in a parent's life, and it's no fun for the kids either, they are being taken care of as whole people, as human beings. They're looking at the mental health. They're looking at the social component. They're looking at the communication. And all of that is what makes this, oh gosh, this is the worst thing ever. This is a horrible day. This is a horrible experience, turning into, gosh, but thank God for these people. Thank God for this organization who made it bearable.
Yeah. So you're telling me when Jason Kelsey walks into the Children's Mercy Hospital, question is, does he keep his shirt on or off?
I've never heard of him being there. I can't verify that, but I know that there are a lot of sports figures and celebrities that do make a point, which is lovely. And some of them, they don't publicize it, that you only hear about it from the parents, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Jennifer, go ahead, Sully. Go ahead.
No, please.
I was going to say, kind of in the same vein of what Sully's talking about, can you share maybe a story or two where you've helped transform a system or a healthcare provider from a customer service standpoint?
This is such a small thing, but I think you're going to get, there's an organization that I work with that the organizations have gates where you have to check in because it's a huge campus. And I'm not going to name the name of the organization, but I noticed that whenever I would go to visit and help them with what was going on, the person at the gate in almost every instance in every city would just not really be particularly friendly. And so just simply talking about like, this literally is the first person that somebody sees. They're coming into your healthcare system. They don't want to be there. Most people don't want to engage with the healthcare system. They prefer to be home. They prefer to be at a concert or a restaurant. They don't want to be at your healthcare system. And so we integrated it wasn't that it had to be the nurses and the nursing staff or anything like that. It was like the people at the gate. How can they make that person's day a little bit better when they're going somewhere that they don't want to go? And it sounds so trite, but of course, every customer service expert talks about the boring. I call it the boring advice nobody wants to hear. The boring advice nobody wants to hear is saying hello, smiling, asking if you need any help, making eye contact. We've all heard it a zillion times, but are people actually doing it? And the answer is most of the time they are not.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. To talk about a different venue of that. 4 or 5 years ago, I went on a golf trip out to Bandon Dunes. And one of the things that Bandon gets so well, other than it's in the most beautiful place one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, is they recognize the person on their staff you're going to spend the most time with is the caddy. And you're with that caddy literally 5-6 hours every day. And you have the same. And so what they do is they give you the same caddy the entire time you're there. So he gets to know you, you spend time with them. But they have done such a good job of taking care of their caddies. Where they stay is beautiful. They have a 5-star chef on staff 24 hours a day that they can go in and get fed, because Bandon figured it out real early. The person that's going to spend the most time, and what I would say probably within, if you take it out of even the health system standpoint to my customers, the distributors and the manufacturers' customer service teams, those customer service teams probably spend more time with the customer than the sales rep does in many.
Oh, for sure.
Cases. So again, like I said at the beginning of this, I love that we're talking about this topic, and I think it's so key. And to your point, I think people forget about it, but it's so important. It's kind of the old Ritz-Carlton thing with the bed, make the bed the most important thing in the room, because that's what you care about in a hotel room.
Right. Well, Scotty, you brought it up earlier. You said one of the main topics that you hear over and over is this stress that comes with staffing shortages. Since COVID, I mean, that's what we hear. And whether it's senior care, long-term care, or acute care, or ambulatory care. And what's the downside of staffing shortages? Everyone's stressed out. Mm-hmm. So Jennifer, do you realize do you realize how many shifts I've worked this week? And you're asking me to smile? I'm human too, Jennifer. I'm human too. What about me? Who's taking care of me? So how do you balance that, right? So let's say I'm a healthcare leader. I'm a CNO with a department of stressed out nurses, and you come and I say, Jennifer, how do I handle this? Right? Because they are stressed out. They are overworked. I can't say, guys, come on, pull up your pants now. Let's go. Treat people nice. How do you do it?
Well, it's an energy thing. It's not a time thing. So it's about looking at it, it doesn't take extra time to smile or make eye contact. It's energy. And so how are you keeping the energy? So, and of course, in Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, I write extensively about the link between happy staff, happy patients. But what are you doing to keep the energy up? So just as an example, during COVID, one organization that I worked with had a pantry for their staff with something that was very coveted during COVID. Can you all guess what it was?
Toilet paper?
Yes, toilet paper.
Whoa.
So, yeah, you at your shift.
I was going to say Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I was going to say Prosecco.
Yeah. So alcohol. No. So, but they had grocery items and paper products, toilet paper. And so this was, it really gave them a boost that this is really terrific. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming in. And this is, of course, when everybody thought they were going to die just by going into a hospital. But honestly, that just, it doesn't have to be huge stuff. And so one of the things that I see a lot, Sully and Scott, is that people aren't even trying because they're just like, we have an excuse. We're short-staffed.
Yeah.
They're not even going to try it. They're like, we just have to focus on recruitment and retention. But when it's a nice place to work and you feel, and again, it doesn't have to be expensive. When it's a nice place to work, you are actually attracting people that want to work in your organization. And so just small things. And I'm going to just throw out, like, I run a small company, but I have a team of about 10 people, and I give them a little bonus every holiday. I'm a very small business. I mean, that's something that's little. I try to really hard to say thank you, just leaders saying thank you. Alan Levin, who I interviewed for Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, he is the chief nursing officer at New York Presbyterian. And they have a really nice setup there where one of their goals is making sure that they have at least one touch per week with every employee that they feel appreciated. And so they sort of have that they will survey their staff. So it's not a lot of time. It's not a lot of money. Now, you can do expensive things to keep people really invested, and one of the ways he does it is, like, he'll use Instagram or Twitter and he'll tag the employees, like, new employee orientation. This person did a great job this week. Takes a little bit of time as the chief nursing officer. And he doesn't do it all himself, but he had his staff, like, they all do something each week to make sure that everybody on the nursing staff, and this is a hospital-wide thing. So I think the attitude has to stop being, we're short-staffed. And by the way, let's remind everybody right now not to use that language in front of your patients. That just incites terror when you're short-staffed. We'll get to your mother as soon as possible. We plan to see you in an hour. When you use the word short-staffed or the term short-staffed, people, all they can imagine is that the care is going to be awful and that their loved one is in danger.
Yeah. And what does that lead to? Horrible HCAP scores and really bad Google reviews. And if you've got a choice between where you're taking mama, that matters, right? I mean, there's a financial reward or you're going to get dissed on it. And these leaders really have to understand.
There's a good Gen Xer line. You're going to get dissed.
You're going to get dissed. You know what I'm saying? Hang on. Don't make me switch cameras on you. So, Scotty.
I just got dissed.
Let's provide a translator for the terms.
You know what? You're not as generation. Listen, this is what I'm doing. You talked about the importance of communicating with different generations, Jennifer. Okay. There's some, like, really hip people listening to our program.
I'm
right? Sure. No, but Jennifer, I love the simple thing of thank you notes, right? Verbally saying thank you, a handwritten thank you note, the birthday card, something very simple, which I think all of this sort of goes under the boring advice nobody wants to hear part. I love that, right? I wrote that down. Just doing those little things, but I think it has to become a habit, right? So my advice to a CNO would be how important it is to you. Yeah, it's really important. Okay. When should you do it? What's the frequency of doing it? and time block it. Put it in your calendar. It's Friday morning. It's the time during the week where you write your handwritten thank you notes, or on your Google calendar, it pops up. These are 15 employees who need to be thanked, which, by the way, this applies to medical companies too, right? There's leaders of medical companies who maybe haven't written the handwritten thank you note or the birthday note to even their own employees, because really a hospital is just a big company. There's no difference. There's good, right? There's great companies. There's great hospital systems. And so the principles apply, but it takes energy. I love that. It's energy. It's not.
It really doesn't have to be. So I also want to make sure that, because I know that there's some younger folks probably like, I don't care about a note, but have pizza once a month or something like that. There's so many different ways. And as a former psychotherapist, you got to think about, what are your employees' love languages, right? Like, what is going to mean something to them? Some people are going to be like, I don't care about a thank you note. Or that they would appreciate, you're going to be flexible with them when they have to go to their kids' recital and they can make up their hours another time. I think what we see, one of the big problems that we see in healthcare, well, in every industry, but really a lot in healthcare right now, is our younger generations desperately want flexibility. They want quality of life. They are not, when we probably all got into the field of full-time employment, we had bosses that were expecting 60, 70-hour weeks. I gladly did it. I was like, this is the way it is. I want to be successful. The Gen Zs especially, they're rejecting this. They want balance. And so I get arguments from healthcare organizations and leaders all the time. Well, we can't be flexible. Well, sure you can. Like, you have nurses that work 3/12s. That's flexibility. Or maybe you have a nursing assistant that needs to take off 2 hours in the middle of the day because she needs to run her mom to the doctor, or whatever. And the thing is, yes, does a surgeon need to be there for surgery? Yes, of course. But there are tons of jobs, marketing, human resources, people that work in billing, that can they work some of it at home? And I think that there's just, and I think a lot of it is generational, because especially Gen Xers and boomers tend to, and we still have traditionalists in the workplace, people older than boomers. So our presidential candidates are both in that generation. so we still have people.
They're both casket
leaders.
Models.
We still have healthcare leaders that are traditionalist age. But you think about, they are really resistant to flexibility. They're not all of them, but as a rule, they're less likely to say, sure, let's flex your hours. Let's work within, because they have this idea that people need to pay their dues. And I think there's a mental block. Like, things have changed in the workplace so much. And if you don't embrace what younger employees want, you're just not going to get them.
There's no flexibility in Biden. Have you seen him walk? There's no way he's going to be flexible.
I'm not saying anything about any of the candidates. I'm saying,
just stay out.
Let's go back to the book real quick, Jennifer. You talk about reimagining customer service and healthcare. Can you give the audience maybe a couple of takeaways from that? I'd love to. I know some of them are probably going to want to get it once they've heard about it, but give them a couple of this high level bullet points.
I have a whole chapter on why certain patients are difficult all the time. And for device reps, that will be invaluable to you for when certain doctors or healthcare leaders are difficult all the time. I talk about all the reasons why, but in particular, I talk about personality disorders like narcissistic traits, histrionic traits, dependent traits. This is something in psychology that psychotherapists talk about it all the time, but in the business world, I think if people understand the traits that make someone particularly challenging to work with, you can adjust your approach and you will have less problems with them. So that, I think, that's to me, one of my favorite chapters, because it really helps, like, to how do you de-escalate and how do you prevent a problem with somebody maybe that's always looking. Listen, most people want to be satisfied. They want you to do a good job. They want to thank you for it. They want to write a great review. But there is a percentage of the population that even if you do the best possible job, that they're still going to be hard to work with. So that would be one tip, is that realize that those difficult people that are always difficult, there are ways that you can work with them to make your life easier and make it less time consuming and less draining. But the other big thing is really just remembering that so I had a friend who had open heart surgery a couple years ago, and he and his wife were there at the hospital, and the doctor came in and said, "How you all doing? Want to just keep you calm, because I want you to remember that as much as this is a really huge day for me, for you, this is a huge day for you. This is a day in the office for me." And
another Thursday.
And he said it with empathy and empathy and compassion, and saying, this is another day in the office for me, even though this is a really scary, stressful day for you. I know things are going to go well. I have every confidence you're going to wake up and you're going to feel better in a week or whatever. But he came in and acknowledged that it was scary, but I've got your back. Yeah. And when somebody goes into a big procedure, that's the mindset you want them in, because when somebody has good patient bedside manner, it's not just you get better reviews. It's not just that you're going to get more business. It's not just that your HCAP scores will be higher. Your clinical outcomes, all the research is your clinical outcomes are better. That guy that goes into surgery thinking, gosh, my doc really cares, and he just said, you're in good hands. As much as this is scary, this is a day at the office for me. You're going to be just fine. Versus the guy that the doctor doesn't even make eye contact with him, who goes into surgery with a better mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you're going to get help. The patient's mindset is going to, I think, make him heal probably better, right? I mean, if you believe,
if it's just a placebo effect,
right? Hey, and Scott, just before we jump away, because I want to tie in your background in psychotherapy, and in fact, I had a 2-hour drive yesterday to see my senior daughter at the University of Missouri, the very last basketball game she ever danced on the floor. Very sad day for me at the University of Missouri. But on the way, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and
love Joe Rogan.
Love him. And and I don't know if you heard this, but he had a wonderful woman on, Abigail Schreier. She wrote a couple of controversial books.
I know who you're talking about. She's the one that writes about trans kids.
Correct. And she wrote another book called Bad Therapy. And, the premise is, and we won't get into a whole lot of details on this, but she talks about, and what made me think of this is we think of Gen Z and why they need flexibility. They think different. Mm-hmm. They were raised different. Mm-hmm. They too might have required therapy. Mm-hmm. It's right. The therapy, the amount of kids in therapy now is off the charts. Certainly, the number of adults on therapies is off the charts. And what made me really curious is her take on this dependence on therapy. And while certain people need therapy, there's a dependence to it. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm saying, why are people so focused on themselves? Might be a weird thing here. Okay. And it might be totally off topic, but you're a psychotherapist and I want to take advantage of you right here. Right. That here is my issue. I want to go talk about my issue. And what she was saying is, so often talking about your problems lead to, the embedding of this problem. Yeah. And then there's new problems that come as a result of this. And she says what heals this, at least the studies say, is a foundation of good parenting with rules, et cetera. Right? And you say, well, what does this have to do with Gen Z in the hospitals? I think certainly we have to treat people differently. Gen Z may be different than Gen X or certainly boomers. But based on what I was learning there, I don't think we need to be coddling a lot of people.
Oh, no.
Right? So give me your psychotherapy take on this.
No.
So I think it applies to anyone you're going to hire. And this is for companies who are listening right now. I'm going to hire Gen Z. I've got a pet Gen Z. I've got, if they want to go on have the safe space on Fridays, I got to let them have the safe space. And I think what this woman would say is, no. You're fostering this lame attitude. Am I a freak here?
Yeah, you're bringing up such a wonderful point. I don't think I could be a psychotherapist right now. I haven't been a psychotherapist in a while, but I do coaching, and like you probably do, Brian. I don't know if you do, Scott, but I don't think I could be, for a variety of reasons, which is probably a whole other conversation. But no, what I'm saying is that they have different perspectives, and their desires for a workplace are different in terms of flexibility, in terms of work-life balance. Most people in the younger generations are not going to be as eager like maybe I was when I was 22, 23. I would do whatever. I worked 70 hours. Mm-hmm. I was super ambitious. I'm not saying that the Gen Zs aren't ambitious, but they have just a different perspective on being not just flexible, but also being efficient. Like, they don't have time for nonsense meetings. Like, why do we have to have a meeting about this? Can we just do an email? Right. So I think that there's a lot of positives that are coming out by this, seeing different ways. We have to respect institutional knowledge from the older generations and things that are working. But for example, if there's a job, like, listen, if a surgeon comes in who's a Gen Xer or a millennial, they're like, you know what, I'd rather go to the beach right now, or I'm upset because of something I watched on the news today, I'm not gonna be able to do the surgery. No, that's not acceptable. But if this is, I'm gonna just throw out an example. I know a physician who, awesome doctor, awesome, great diagnostician, great bedside manner. She wanted to take time off because she had a family problem, and they wouldn't give her more than, and she was at the company for 10 years, they wouldn't give her more than FMLA. She was like, can I do a part-time, and this is a younger person, can I do a part-time contract for the next year? Because I have this stuff going on with her kids and what have you. And they were like, no, to me, that's a bunch of nonsense. Like, you want to get rid of a good doctor because you won't be flexible with something that, and they're going to repay you over and over again. If hey, we care about you and your family, you're going through this rough time, they're going to be more loyal. So no, Brian, I do not know. Do we need coddling? No, that's nothing. I'm not a fan of that. And just full disclosure, because I feel like we're going down some interesting paths. I'm actually a politically moderate person. I'm not affiliated with, once in a while I'll register because I want to do a primary, but I wrote in both directions. I see most sides of, I think that's a good thing that I bring to the healthcare system, because I don't think anything should be political. I think it really is about the patient care, but no to coddling, but yes to being flexible and understanding what people, what's going to make them more loyal. Don't look at it as they're calling the shots. Look at it, what are you doing to build loyalty?
Yeah, I think being flexible builds loyalty. Just like time builds loyalty. The more time you spend with someone, the more loyal they become, or you become with them. And I think that being flexible, we had a young lady here that just started. She's a writer for us, graduated from the University of Georgia. And she was scared to death. She came into me and John about a month ago and said, hey, I just got my dream internship. It's going to last 6 months, and it's at a forestry deal. And she's like, I'm 23 years old. I may never get to do this again. I want to keep my job here. I'm not wanting to leave. And, John and I are like, you're 23. How can we tell you not to go do that? Right. And you're a writer. You don't have to be in the office to write. Right. If you can manage through the stuff that we're giving you, we're happy for you to go do that and come back in 6 months. John and I's thinking is, if that doesn't build loyalty with this person for our business, And
That's
at the same time,
exactly it, Scott. That's exactly what I'm getting at.
yeah, I think the other thing I encourage Gen Z, actually anybody, is to be curious. And that's the one thing I find they don't do. They're not great at being curious about certain things. I'm like, you need to constantly ask why. If you don't want to have the meeting, you don't like having meetings, ask why we have to have it. Don't just not like it or check out of them.
Yeah.
Drill into why are we doing this? Like, I think when you're curious about especially in this environment, healthcare, because it's so convoluted and there's so many layers to it, you have to be curious or you'll never catch up with just the vernacular alone of our industry. The acronyms are insane how many there are. I think I love that of be flexible, but you do not have to coddle. And it's not in me to coddle anyways. Just because I grew up with a Marine Corps dad for 20 years.
I mean, I don't know if
there's no coddling.
Did you read The Coddling of the American Mind?
No, I have not.
That's another amazing book. It talks about exactly the coddling. Obviously, coddling's in the title, but it's about what's going on in schools, and it sometimes some of the things that are happening maybe are making us a little less resilient. Because you do have to be resilient to work in healthcare.
For sure. Hey, talk a little bit about the other book, Cruising Through Caregiving.
Oh, sure. So I wrote that book Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare is for leaders and clinicians. Cruising Through Caregiving is really for family caregivers, anybody that's taking care of somebody that they love, who wants to reduce their stress and give better care to their loved one. So it really is, I'm very much about that. Most family caregivers, if you have, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it's your spouse that's ill, I don't care if it's your parent, I don't care if it's even your child, most family caregivers need to be a little bit more selfish, because the more that they let themselves have the basics like sleep and they exercise and they get a little socialization of their own, they are going to be better equipped to help. I think a big mistake that family caregivers tend to make is that they don't accept enough help. I think I see this. I have several friends and family right now going through something, and I'm somebody that will bother you until you tell me how I can help. And I'll say, well, can I bring food? Can I send a gift card? This is my field. This is what I do. Can I just visit for 15 minutes? Can I, whatever it is, can I ship, would you like an edible arrangement? Because I also don't want to do things that people aren't going to like. For example, I have friends that are going through a caregiving situation. They're vegetarians and people are sending them Omaha steaks. And because people don't know what they need. People don't know. And so
don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Yeah. But maybe it's time to change and not be a vegetarian anymore. But
damn millennials.
I think so. What the book's all about is empowering the family caregiver to be like, yeah, here's what I like. I'm going to just give you another example. I have a friend whose spouse is sick, and what can I do? I asked and asked and asked, and finally they're like, you know what? She would probably love to get a pedicure. I sent a gift card for a pedicure. They live in another state. Awesome. He told me the spa where she would like. It doesn't have to be money either. It could be just that maybe they need research on where a home care agency, what good home care agencies are in your area. You can do that online for that person.
How to fill out that Medicaid application.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk about that for a quick moment, if you have any assets to speak of at all, do not do that on your own. Talk to an elder law attorney, CELA, elder law attorney. Don't ever, Brian, you've obviously been through this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's great advice. I mean, you have no clue when you're going through it. You really don't. You don't know where.
And they'll keep kicking it back to you.
Yeah. You got that's great advice, Jennifer. Find someone to help you with this, and even things like they're going to have you set up trusts years in advance to protect the funds. And so, talk about asking for help. That's one place you need to ask for help.
What I don't know what y'all are talking about. What is this?
So well, go ahead, Jennifer. You take it.
Oh, so Brian was saying something like, "Oh, help you fill out a Medicaid application," and incredibly complicated. In fact, the Supreme Court has, there's some kind of quote out there, like the Supreme Court, it's in Cruising Through Caregiving. I quote this. It's like an assault on the English language, Medicaid law, because it's so complicated and so confusing and people don't understand it. And so if there's any assets to speak of, so if you have a loved one that you think is going to need a nursing home, and let's say like there's two people that, I don't want to go too deep into it. Let's say there's a married couple and one needs a nursing home, and you have you own a home. Dad needs a nursing home. Mom's going to stay at home in the community at her house. Talk to an elder law attorney. They will help you protect that home so that doesn't, I don't want to get too into it, but the person you want is a CELA.
Yeah. Yeah. So Scotty, essentially they're going to dwindle all your money down from the nursing home because they have to pay for care. I mean, they have to be paid. And eventually you have nothing, right? But, for instance, in the case with my father, he spent most of his money on trips to Bangkok / Tito's Vodka, and there wasn't much left. But I got him in the nursing home, a couple of years. So you pay now. Anyway, it's complex deal. And if you've got elderly parents, go ahead and check that out. But your book will help people better understand what they're supposed to do, Jennifer? Oh, absolutely. So Cruising Through Caregiving, every single chapter is a different way to reduce your stress as a family caregiver. I love that. Yeah. And what I love about that is I think in my case, you just feel aimless. You don't know what direction to go. And aimlessness causes anxiety. And your book, if you're giving that template, do this, I think immediately reading it is going to reduce stress and anxiety for folks. And if you want just the sample chapter and the worksheets that are totally free, just go to cruisingthroughcaregiving.com and you can print them off. And as long as you can share them with your family, you don't have to worry about copyright or anything. You can print them, make copies, whatever. But it's all these worksheets that'll help you to reduce stress. So that is completely free, cruisingthroughcaregiving.com.
That's awesome. Sully, what do you got next, buddy? Yeah, well, let's listen. So as we wrap up here, Jennifer, maybe share any upcoming projects or maybe some speaking engagements that you're really fired up about, right?
Sure.
Tell us about Showtime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just real quick, I'm going to be actually doing my Cruising Through Caregiving signature speech in Chico, California on April 16th. That's completely free. It's sponsored by Chico State University. I'll be at Rhode Island Assisted Living Association in Warwick, Rhode Island on May 3rd, talking about my topic, Think Like a Shrink. And it's about using psychotherapy principles to retain staff and reduce turnover and provide good customer service.
Oh, stop. Just give us one tip from that. One tip you're going to be giving the folks in that.
Just one tip about Think Like a Shrink, setting boundaries with, it kind of goes to what Brian was saying about coddling. Like, yes, here's what you want in a staff person and here's what you need, but you have to have your line, your boundaries. Like good psychotherapists, they have boundaries. They set up boundaries in their work with other people. So they have objectivity. So what are your boundaries going to be? And it might be that you're not going to be friends with your employees. I'm not saying that that's the right thing for every employer, but everybody has to have some kind of boundary, whether it's with hiring or recruitment or customer service.
I've set up boundaries with Brian. I mean, he stayed at the house a few times. It's just...
He seems like the kind that would push it.
You know what the boundary was? It was the pillows between us and his king bed.
Those are pillows.
Oh dear. Sorry.
Jennifer, we just set your speaking business back 20 years.
Oh my goodness. No, it's all right. It's all right.
All right. Well, listen, I want to do a brief recap, the things that I took away that really hit me. You said energy. It's an energy thing, not a time thing, as it relates to providing these customer experiences. So for you healthcare or medical sales people, that thing applies to us as well. It's 3:00 in the afternoon and you walk into a hospital, you too better bring the energy. Right. I mean, that's I love the CNO who was making one touch per week doing, thank you notes or any other thing to create happy customers so they stick around, and that ultimately leads to them treating people better. Treat your people. Herb Kelleher said this from Southwest Airlines, right? You treat your people like champions, they're going to treat the customer like champions, and that really hit me. Scotty, you said something I really love is remain curious, and that applies to everything, right? We don't know much. Right. When we're all in our 50s here and we have not arrived at, and you got to remain curious. And the note I took beyond that is also, you have to be willing to take risks, right? And you have to be willing to fail. Like you have to try new things. And I think, part of the coddling discussion that I was bringing up is my fear is that much of the maybe, and I don't mean to sound like the old curmudgeon here, but I think too many people are becoming risk averse. And maybe that's from parenting, right? But listen, I've got 3 kids and we probably helicoptered them a little bit too much ourselves, right? But my hope is we didn't take we hope we didn't create a fear of failure, right? You go try new things, right? Learn new things, and hopefully you'll fail. Because the most successful people I've met in my life are folks who absolutely blew it at some point. And if we're trying to create this safe world for everybody, including ourselves and our children, they won't learn from anything, right? And that's that's kind of a wrap up of what I've gotten from a lot of this conversation as well.
Yeah, I love it. I think a couple of things for me. One is being flexible with your employees, being flexible. I think with your own self, give yourself some flexibility for sure. And then I love what you just said there about you're not being afraid to fail. Netflix does a great job with their documentaries, this documentary called The Chef's Table. And if you've ever watched it, it's almost the same template in every one. These guys go off they drop off to the bottom of their career before it absolutely takes off. And it's trial through failure. And then they end up having these 5-star Michelin star, James Beard restaurants, but they were absolutely at rock bottom at some point. And it's because they were trying things and they weren't afraid to fail. And then the last thing I love, Sully, you bring this up all the time too, is, and it ties into what Jennifer was saying about thanking your people, is block the time to do it. If you don't block the time to do it, it's going to slip through the cracks and you're going to get busy doing other stuff. And I'm talking to myself as much as to everybody else, but great conversation, Jennifer. It was so fun having you on the podcast.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Hopefully we were okay.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
All right, where can folks learn more?
Oh, sure. Generations Health, generationshealth.com. Generations is with a J. Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, and Cruising Through Caregiving, anywhere books are sold.
And would you be open to attending medical company sales meetings and teaching
customer service meetings
in the mind of their folks?
Absolutely. Would love to be contacted. Jen, Jen at generationshealth.com. Generations with a J.
I just wish you were more fun. Jennifer, a little more energy, please. More smiles out of you.
I'll try to do
Kidding.
If you have me next time, maybe I'll be a little more fun.
Hey, we may make you a co-host for crying out loud.
Exactly. That was a great conversation. Guys, make sure when you're out there, when you get these podcasts, you can get it on Spotify, you can get it on YouTube, you can get it in Rep Connect in our app. We've started putting them in there, but make sure you go in and subscribe anywhere you get podcasts so that you know when the next episodes are coming out. And we'll be on every Friday live at 10 o'clock.
All right. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. You've been listening to The Cure with Scotty and Sully. See you next week.
Peace out.